A very good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt wishes to all of you for the occasion of World Environment Day 2024. So today, as we come together to celebrate this day dedicated to our planet, let us reaffirm our commitment to preservation and restoration. So as we all know, this year's theme is Generation Restoration, and it's impossible to ignore the pressing issues of marine pollution. Our oceans face a lot of challenges from pollution and a lot that threaten the delicate ecosystem. So amidst these challenges, we are happy to introduce to you some of the organizations and experts who are working in the field to protect and preserve our marine environments. So today's session, our main focus will be marine conservation efforts and urgency in India, to understand the current situations in India and also to highlight some of the organizations and people working in the field. So we are privileged to welcome all of our speakers who will be sharing their expertise on this critical subject. Thank you all for joining. And also I would like to extend my sincere welcome to all the participants who have joined us. Without further delay, I am pleased to hand it over to Michelle from Sphere India, who will be moderating the session today and also will take us through the session objectives and also the speakers. Thank you so much, Michelle. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And once again, a very good afternoon to all the panelists and participants who have joined us. So today marks the World Environment Day, an annual event to raise awareness on critical issues impacting the health of the planet. And we are currently in the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration from 2021 to 2030, which is also often termed as Generation Restoration. And it aims to prevent, halt, and reverse degradation of ecosystems on every continent and in every ocean. So environment and ecosystems degradation, of course, cannot be talked in isolation to the accelerating climate change. As in the words of the UN Secretary General, we are in the era of global climate boiling. And in the context of this, a recent study by Dr. Roxy Matthew Call of Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology forecasts like substantial warming ranging from 1.7 degrees to 3.8 degrees, depending on various climate models of warming of the Indian Ocean. While the number of events across Bay of Bengal have increased in frequency and intensity, as witnessed in the latest cyclones of Rima, Michong, etc., we are also witnessing more extreme events originating in the Arabian Sea. And the warming of the Arabian Sea is also attributed as one of the contributing factors to the recent heat waves across the country. And the warming of oceans in what is called marine heat waves is making it conducive for more extreme events and unprecedented temperatures and heat waves sweeping across the continents. And the World Meteorological Organization recently shared that sea surface temperatures have been on a record-breaking streak for the past 13 months, a persistent marine heat wave. So we have news from different parts of the world, such as from Great Barrier Reef suffering one of the most severe coral bleaching events in the past 10 years. And such events on sensitive ecosystems are, of course, becoming more frequent and severe, making their recovery difficult with repeated events. In the context of India, while terrestrial ecosystems are also important, it's also important to remember that marine ecosystems and marine diversity is also something India is very rich in and spread across a coastline of more than 7,500 kilometers, including the Andaman, Nicobar, and Lakshadweep island groups. And we have coastal ecosystems ranging from estuaries, lagoons, mangroves, backwaters, salt marshes, rocky salt, sandy stretches, and coral reefs that are home to hundreds of marine flora and fauna species. It's important to remember that these species have a very narrow temperature range in which they can survive. So with warming of these oceans, it is difficult for us to retain diversity of these species. However, only 5% of coastal and marine areas are designated as protected, highlighting the need for enhanced conservation efforts. And marine fisheries also contribute significantly to livelihoods in India and nutritional security with an estimated value of over 58,000 crores in 2022. So warmer seas are also impacting livelihoods with fishes moving to deeper waters, as has been reported from the coasts of Gujarat and Maharashtra. And it is important to address these challenges. And the government of India has also introduced a range of legislative and policy measures to address these challenges, such as the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, the Biological Diversity Act of 2002, and the Coastal Regulation Zone Notifications of 2019 to provide comprehensive legal protection to marine animals and also to preserve ecologically sensitive areas by restricting harmful activities. We have 130 notified marine protected areas across coastal states and islands. However, there are several gaps in the implementation of these policies. And with marine ecosystems facing increasing threats from pollution, overfishing, and climate change, there is an urgent need to raise awareness and also to act effectively to restore degraded terrestrial, freshwater, and marine ecosystems. And with this context, it is my pleasure and honor to moderate an accomplished panel of eco-warriors that we have today working on a range of issues related to marine conservation. Mr. Adhavan Dev, Lead Marine Conservation HCL Foundation, Dr. S. Prakash, Associate Professor, Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, Ms. Pooja Mitra, Founder, Terra Conscious, and Mr. Arjali Dasu, Secretary, District Fishermen's Youth Welfare Association. So I would like to first invite Mr. Adhavan to share regarding their efforts on marine conservation in India, and if you can outline briefly the policy and governance frameworks for marine conservation and sustainable fisheries management, that would be great. Over to you, Adhavan.
Thank you, Michelle. Let me share my screen. I'm turning off my camera. Actually, I'm in a field visit, so place where I have very limited access to internet. Turning off my camera for that. Hope my slide is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Michelle, for the introduction. Yeah, very good afternoon for everyone for joining this event, this gathering, and I wish you all for this like on this occasion. And it's like first of all, I'll be to taking you all to the conservation effort what HCL Foundation is doing, and why we need this conservation effect. Um, work. okay, so first is like these are the beaches. Can anyone say like where are these beaches are from? Can put in the chat as well. Uh, So, like many people, we have visited beaches for recreational purposes, and this is like a place where we spend most of the time for pleasant surroundings. So, these are the beaches are from India. So, first picture is from Andaman Nicobar, and the second beach is also from Andaman Nicobar, and third is from Goa, and others fourth is from Kochi. Okay, so these are the beaches what we have in India, and again these are also the beaches from India. So again, this beaches is from Tamil Nadu and Cochin and Andaman Nicobar. So who's the reason for this kind of situation? Well, we all have to understand. Uh, we are the reason for this kind of beaches what we have. So again, we all know we have very beautiful beaches in Andaman Nicobar. So this is other part of Andaman Nicobar where we have beaches are completely filled with the debris, marine debris, and poor management. So what are the impact of this marine debris? First of all, we need to understand what will happen to these beaches because of this plastic pollution. First, there will be a habitat loss. So we have a lot of organisms habitating this coastal ecosystem, right from salt marsh to the sandy shore. We have a unique system where the food chain and food web is completely balanced, so that we can get a good clean ocean that has a great impact on the fisheries as well as tourism and the revenue what we getting from the uh, sources. And socioeconomic impact also, it is also a great impact of this habitats. So next is like impact on marine biota. So what will happen is like this. There are a lot of organisms, as I said before. We have a set of organisms right from salt marshes till the sand dunes. This a complex ecosystem. It is a filtering unit, it is acting as a filtering unit that gives a clear water to the sea. So what happens? The toxic substance which is coming from the land that will first enter into the salt marsh, and the toxic substance will be broken into simple form. So there will be a set of organisms that can feed or break that complex substance into simple form. It can be directly absorbed by the plants and animals. And next, the debris or whatever the pollutant contaminant will pass through mangrove, and then it will pass through the sandy shore. So yeah, so because of this, the loss of this habitat and marine biota, there is a loss of economy of the fisher folk or the community who is completely dependent on the tourism, and this directly impact the climate change. So I'll be explaining that in the forthcoming slide. So from this picture, you can see the pattern of the organism that is residing in the sandy shore ecosystem. So, what happened? We have a lot of organisms that include crabs, polychaete worms, and shells. That they are the sandy shore. It is also a habitat. It is a house for a lot of organisms. When we visit beaches, we see only sand, but there are a lot of organisms living in this ecosystem. So, what they do, when the complex substance, as I said, the pollutant is when it is coming from the land-based pollution, the toxic chemicals are coming from the land towards the sea. The floating substance will be get filtered and get settled in the sandy shore. So again, these organisms will feed on those biological material and the complex substance and make it to simple form, and the water, the quality of water will be increased, and the clear water will be taken to the sea. So this will increase the fishery resources, and directly the fisher folk, they are who are completely dependent on this fishing, they also benefited. It also helps the tourism, and it also helps uh, the the government body for the revenue generation. And this also limits the feeding and foraging activities of crab. So what happened? These crabs, they are completely dependent on this ecosystem. So what they do is they come out from the burrows, and whenever we go to the beach, we see a small round particle of sand which is thrown out from the crab hole. So by this activity, what happened? The atmospheric gases getting exchanged, and the biogeocycle happens in that ecosystem, and this will keep the ecosystem balanced. Okay. And there are some again in this ecosystem, there are other organisms will come and feed on this organism. For example, shoreline birds. So birds will directly come and they get attracted towards this organism, and they feed on this ecosystem. So this is how the food cycle is taking place. So what happens when this ecosystem is completely covered by plastics? So there is the burrow of the crab is affected, and the habitat for this polychaete worm and the shrimp is completely affected, because they cannot penetrate more. Go make a burrow in this ecosystem. And moreover, these plastics are covered when it is covered by the algae. This algae they produce dimethyl sulfate. This gives a smell of this marine ecosystem, so that the birds will think this as a prey by the smell of this dimethyl sulfate, and they feed on these plastics. So that is a chance for the birds to get this plastic consumed. And again, this plastic, due to this various process, physical and chemical process, it will be broken into microplastic that enters a food chain. We have a serious threat of this. So when you consume the microplastic, which is directly or indirectly through our food, it will causes pathological stress, reproductive complication, reducing growth rate, blocking of enzyme production, and oxidative stress. This is not only happens in marine species, that is consuming this microplastic. This also take place in human being when we consume the fish which is affected by this microplastic biomagnification, or yeah, biomagnified fishes. So nowadays, like due to the usage of plastic and dispose of plastic more in the ecosystem, the microplastic is very common in each and every trophic level. So this again, this is the ecosystem where we found in India, near to Chennai. So, like in the first picture, we can see the this is an intertidal zone where the fiddler crab is coming off of foraging. But the sad part is, like this foraging ground is covered by a sheet of plastic. Now, this will cause confusion, or this will cause effect of this biological activities of this fiddler crab. Again, the lost, ghost nets, like abandoned fishing nets. And you can see the intertidal zone in the picture C. That is like where the fishing people, they have parked their boat. But still, this ecosystem also once fortified with the fiddler crabs and mud skipper and a lot of other organisms. So now this ecosystem is completely not fit for this organism, because this is completely covered by plastic and other pollution. So the policy and governance part. So if you see the policies, we have certain policies and governance is implemented in the coastal ecosystem for the conservation of marine organisms. So the main part of the first, the main reason for this policy and governance is problem of ocean space and closely interrelated to the need to be considered as a whole. That is, there are chances for dominating approaches. This leads to the conflict among the stakeholders. For example, the fishers are from different zone. We have categorized as a mechanized boat, as fishing boats, and traditional or artisan fisher folk. The mechanized boat may dominate the fishing ground, and this will affect the small scale fishers. So, in order to overcome this problem, the policy and governance plays very important role. Second is ocean governance acknowledges that existing the continuing division of ocean. So this is the division of ocean space is in the maintaining the maritime spaces divided into zones and national jurisdiction and international jurisdiction, so that the fisherman will not go beyond the fishing zone, what is demarcated at the national level, or international level. So that this is also to protect the fishermen, fisher folk, and the maintain the bioresources, so that the international vessels will not come into our water for illegal fishing, and our fishermen are restricted towards the boundary. So because of this, there are a lot of conflict in India Sri Lanka border and India Pakistan border. The fishermen, without knowing the boundaries, they are going to other international waters and other countries border. So this is the main reason this policy governance are coming into picture. And this also helps you to strives to resolve the governance problem arising at the zonal sector. For example, we have in the different states, we have a boundary demarcated. So that in order to solve this the conflict, in order to avoid the conflict, the boat are all given with a color code. For example, if you see the boats from Ramanathapuram, they have given a color code of green, like and the boats from Porbandar, they have given blue color, and Pondicherry they have given the fluorescent yellow of fluorescent green. So based on this, they can categorize about the force like marine forces, including Coast Guard and marine polices. They can categorize the boat and they can guide the fisher folk according to the boundary. Like they'll be guiding them to fish within the boundary and in order to avoid conflicts. So this is also the main part of this policy and governance. And like CRZ, Coastal Regulation Zone, is another important uh, notification. It is part of Environment Protection Act 1986. So this of the Ministry of Environment and Forest Climate Change. So the main thing is like this coastal regulation zone. It is there are activities has to be limited in the coastal regulation zone. So what is coastal regulation zone? How it is measured? The coastal regulation zone is measured from the 500 meters towards the land from the highest high tide point. So from the highest high tide point. So what is highest high tide? So highest high tide is during the spring tide when the earth, moon and sun are on the same line, the tidal influence will be more. So during that time the water the tidal water will reach the maximum point in the land towards the land. So that point from that point 500 meters towards the land is considered as coastal regulation zone. So we have coastal regulation zone 1, 2, 3, 4. That is like they are limiting certain activities are limited and certain activities are carried out in the coastal regulation zone 1, 2, 3, 4. So based on that, it is it is categorized. Okay, and we also have fisheries law. So these fisheries law they play very important role for the fisheries resource management, the biological management. For example, the operation of fishing gears in different location, and the mesh size which is given for the tall net or gill net. If you see the tall net are completely banned in coral reef area because this will affect the bottom topography and bottom ecosystem. Same like that, the Persian is also banned in certain place, and the trap nets are completely banned in protected area. So like there are chances for the other organisms like mainly the sea turtle get entangled in this trap, which they keep for more than 12 hours. So fisheries law is completely based on that. We can see this one fishing ban season. So we know we have a fishing ban season in West Coast and East Coast, which is totally different. So for the West Coast, it is from 1st June to 31st July, and for the East Coast, it is from 15 April to 14 June. So this is also to maintain the biodiversity, and it is these seasons are considered as a breeding season for the fishes, and no mechanized trawlers or boats are allowed to allowed for fishing. So this will affect the juveniles of the fishes, but only the traditional or artisan fishermen are allowed for their livelihood during this season. And again, Wildlife Protection Act 1972. This is also plays very much a very important role in conservation of marine coastal ecosystem. So this coral reefs are completely protected as Schedule One. Coral reefs, sea turtle, and other sea horses. These organisms are really very important for the balancing the ecosystem. This is in olden days. What happened? The coral they have a very good calcium content. So this will be used for house construction in Rameshwaram, Ramanathapuram area, and due to its calcium content, these are taken extracted more. The live coral are extracted more for the manufacture of cements and all. So because of this Wildlife Protection Act, these activities and all stopped. And the sea horses, sea cucumber, they are still like people are smuggling. It is a part of Chinese medicine, and this because of this Act, Wildlife Protection Act, these organisms are completely protected. So this policy and governance, it is the benefit, and it is the combination, the combined work of the all the stakeholders. So this is ultimately this is for fishing and the revenue and to maintain the biodiversity. So where the government is involved and the fishery stakeholders and other stakeholders like including tourists and other industries and NGO societies also involved in this fish resource management policy framework. So now, based on these activity, we have HCL Foundation as a part of Coastal Marine Conservation Program. We have certain intervention. Uh, Certain interventions in few states. Like we have our interventions in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, and West Bengal. So from this picture, you can see, you can understand, we are working on three different components: ghost net mitigation and mangrove restoration and shelter bed. So, apart from this activity, all these activities are carried out with the support of the partners, and apart from the involvement of partners, we also involve ourselves directly by involving the volunteers for this debris retrieval. So part of that is like we have organized an underwater campaign, dive to retrieve campaign, where we invited. Diving volunteers from across the country, and we have retrieved more than 300 cages. So, till date, along with the partners, we have recovered more than 1 lakh kgs of abandoned fishing gears from the coast as well as from the marine ecosystem. So in Karnataka, we have interventions of ghost net mitigation. We have a partner, partners working on to retrieve the ghost nets right from the shore as well as from the fisher folk, the old net, on the incentive basis. We're also working on the conservation, the capacity building of the fisher folk community and the coastal community who are directly involved in this coastal region. The outcome of our program is we will be synthesizing the impact of GhostNet and to increase the health of the marine ecosystem and to induce a circular economy model so that they can make a different artifact or any product developed from the GhostNet can be sold or can be recycled or upcycled. And again in Tamil Nadu, we have a partner, and along with the partner, we have retrieved more than 1 lakh kgs of ghost net at a stretch of 106 kilometer. And as a part of this program, we also released 3 lakh sea turtle hatchling, and more than 200 sea turtle have been entangled in ghost net. So we have trained the fisher folk the and build the awareness and capacity of the fisher folk to release sea turtle, and we also build the capacity of the importance of the coastal marine ecosystem that will directly influence their economic status. So all these gears are taken, and we have taking these ghost nets and working on how to mitigate, how to recycle or upcycle these ghost nets. So this is another component we are working in Tamil Nadu, and the fisher folk also educated on the proper usage of their gears and proper disposal of their fishing gears, and whenever they're going for fishing, many times the fisher folk they come empty handed without fish. So that time we have incentivized the program. If they the if they see any ghost nets in the marine in the sea, they can bring it back, and they can get money, sum of money based on the effort and the kilogram quantum of the net what they retrieve from the marine ecosystem. So we also have worked on the land-based, I mean, river-based plastic pollution. We have developed the DPR, like river-based plastic pollution, which is leading into the sea, ultimately with another partner. So it was like this DPR is completely based on the usage and mitigation and the measures to how to manage this uh, river-based plastic entering into the sea, because this is also one of the main sources for the plastic for marine debris. So again, in Andhra Pradesh, again we have two interventions in Andhra Pradesh. So like mangrove plantation, that is in Krishna district, and we have ghost net mitigation program in Chinuvallapallam in Ongole district. Again, this mangroves and mangrove saplings were being mangroves and shelter bed have been planted as a part of ecological, economical, and this is followed in the district of Krishna. So nearly 1,32,000 of mangrove saplings over the place of 20 hectares have been planted, and nearly 1,35,000 of cashew nut have been planted as a part of shelter bed plantation. So this is like all these activities are done with the support of community, involving the community, and the capacity of the community have been built, make them aware of the importance of mangroves and cashmere, and their involvement is really appreciated in this. And again, in Ongole district, we had collected nearly 1,500 kgs of ghost nets. It's an enormous amount of ghost nets, which is from the shoreline as well as from the open sea. So from the picture, you can see this net is completely covered like soiled. So it is completely buried. That means it has been discarded many years before. Now, due to our work of our interventions, like we are doing all this coast and making it's a debris-free coastal region. This place was not habited. I mean, it is a regular site for the sea turtle to visit. So because of this human interventions and these debris, sea turtle are not visiting for quite a long time. And after the intervention last year again, we have one or two sea turtle visiting these beaches after a long time. So that is one of the great achievement what we had in Andhra Pradesh coast. And again, in Odisha, our interventions is we believe the intervention along with the communities will work a lot, because the community, the fisher folk, they know much better of their ecosystem and of their places. So like we train them on the scientific or the effective aspect, and our program is we'll be building the capacity for the mitigation of marine pollution, that is especially for ghost net and marine debris, and we'll give back the program, the idea to the community, and we make the community work on, so that this activity will be continued long. And after our interventions, the community also was very much happy, and they came to know, I mean, they understood the importance of removal of marine debris and ghost nets, and they stopped littering the zones. So again, in West Bengal, we are working in Sundarban region of for the ghost, I mean, for the mangrove plantation. Again, this is also a community-based program, where we have restored the mangrove ecosystem, which is degraded, I mean, which is affected by the cyclone and other impact. So nearly more than 2,000, 2,50,000 of new plantation and multi-purpose tree have been planted in the Sundarban region in the village with the support of community. We have formed mangrove protection group, especially women. Women are the main participant. I mean, are mainly involved in this activity. And we'll be training the fisher for, I mean, the village community people, and the students also will be trained. Okay. And this
Mr.
is something
Radhavan,
like, yeah,
requesting you to please wind up in a couple of minutes in consideration of time.
yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, this is the last slide, I think. Yeah, and after our interventions, this interventions like the ghost of retrieval and part is, if you see, it is gradually increasing by year. This is because of the knowledge, and the concept is has reached the community, and community is has coming forward to, like, voluntarily coming forward on the mitigation of these ghost nets and micro plantations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Adhavan, for sharing about the initiatives and also regarding the policy and governance frameworks related to oceans, and also for highlighting that given the closely interrelated issues of ocean governance, they should have a broader perspective. And also, you shared that pollution, microplastic pollution, how it impacts shore organisms and marine organisms, impacting the ecosystem services they provide. So, with regards to this, we also have Dr. S. Prakash from Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, who can share with us more on innovative technologies and approaches to mitigate microplastic pollution. Over to you, Dr. Prakash.
Yeah, so I will be sharing the slide. Is it good? Audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Dr.
Please go on.
Yeah, so I think Adhavan have also touched upon the plastics, but we'll be looking more into the sources, impact, and how it is getting degraded, and how it is impacting the marine ecosystems and the organisms. So myself, Dr. S. Prakash, working as associate professor at Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, and today we'll be looking more into the marine microplastics and its sources, impacts, and the methods how we can mitigate using even the current AI technology. So on the right, you can have a picture which has been taken by me during diving in the Parkway environment. So you can see how much deep the microplastics or the plastic papers have been reached. Marine microplastics have been mainly separated or classified based on the sizes, because here you have the macroplastic, which is more than 5 mm in size, and then microplastics would be considered hardly between 0.1 micron to 5 millimeter. And microplastic could be of any material, whether it could be polythene, polyethylene, polyurethane, or polyparaformaldehyde, and all other materials that are considered to be a microplastics. And there are variety of sources, which would be including the cosmetic, textiles, and the which is mainly the breakdown of larger particles that has been getting into the microplastics. So three major sources we can consider. One is basically from the industrial production or kind of a pellets that has been generated from the plastic industries, and from the textile industries, and from personal cares. So the experts or the environmentalists are also mentioning that we should not use any shampoo or any face wash that has been coated with the microbeads. Okay, so all these are having impact not to the humans, I mean not only to the humans but also to the marine organisms, because these microbeads are not dissolvable or degradable, and directly it would end up in the rivers or in the oceans, and thereby affecting the marine life as well as the humans. And there are secondary sources, which is mainly considered as the fragmentation of the larger plastic items like bottles, bags, and any other packaging items due to weathering and wave action. So there are like different factors that are responsible. We will look that in a minute. And last is the land-based resources, where it could be the plastic can be brought to the oceans or rivers through the wastewater roadways, littering, or the pathways that has been considered as it enters the rivers and ocean in a form of a microplastics. So in this image, you can see the Antarctic seal that has been entangled with the fishing nets. And the another image which is taken in the Chennai beach, where in a small rocky tidal pool where the Sprite bottle has got trapped. And over the period of weathering and erosion, there is a possibility that the leaching of microplastics will happen in these environments. So the pathways have been considered three major pathways. One is through terrestrial runoff, as we have seen in the previous slide. Second one is the transport, whether it could be through ocean currents or through tides that has been distribute the microplastic throughout the world environment. Sometimes you can see a kind of a juice bottle which has been thrown in Singapore, and due to the waves and tides, it has been moved towards the Chennai shore or Calcutta, or it would end up in the Mumbai, right? So those kind of transportation of microplastics is highly possible because of ocean currents and tides. And then the last pathway is through ingestion. So whatever the microplastics that are available in the environment have been taken up by primary or the secondary level of consumers and has been transferred to different different trophic level through the food chain, and this would lead to the bioaccumulation. Okay, and there are variety of microplastics. So microplastic is not just one compound. So there are polystyrene. I will just take a highlighter here. So there are polystyrene, there are polyformaldehyde, there are polyvinyl chloride, PVC, polyesters, polypropylenes, polyamides, polyethylene, and then there are other heavy metals that has been highly associated with these microplastics. So being a microplastic is not just harmful, but there are other heavy metals or other toxic compounds that has been attached with these microplastic also create environmental damage to the organisms that are thriving in the marine or the ocean environment. And if it has been uptaken by the fishes or by the humans, then it will end up several oxidative stress as well as the inflammation in the environment. So as I was mentioned, there are several factors that has been influencing in degrading or the toxics, right? So first is the physical parameter, that is like UV radiation, right? The sun's energy through UVA, UVB or UVC rays or the photooxidation has been mainly responsible in breaking the macroplastic into a mesoplastic and then microplastic and then nanoplastic. And these nanoplastics are still have the capability to getting into the monomers or oligomers, which is highly toxic, and it has been easily absorbed by the animals. So there are wave actions and chemical reactions, thermo-oxidative degradation, which has been highly influential in degrading the microplastics into nano and the mesoplastics. And there are microbial degradation. The biological resources or the sources have also been highly involved in breaking down or fragmenting the macroplastics into a microplastics. So what will happen? There is a possibility of biofilm formation with the help of bacteria or fungi or algae. So this will settle on the microplastics, which will relate into the biofilm formation. And throughout the globe, there is a project called Plastisphere. Okay, so these plastic items that has been floating on the surface of the sea are carrying lot of microbial diseases as well as harmful microorganisms throughout the oceans. So the Plastisphere is a major project that has been undergoing a world level. Other one I've also mentioned about the impact of plastics on the ecosystems, but I would say that first one is the ingestion. It was also mentioned about it. I will tell you this in detail. And second is the habitat degradation, where the microplastic can smother or suffocate fragile coral reefs and other sensitive marine habitats such as seagrass, seaweeds, and the mangrove environment. So these nanoplastics or the oligomers or monomers have the ability to go and block the breathing roots of the mangrove plants, right? I think you are aware of the mangroves that have breathing roots. Okay, so those nematophores have been blocked by these microplastics, which thereby ends in the killing of that particular plant. Okay, so next is through trophic transfer, which is usually happening in the food chain as a process of a bioaccumulation, because each and every trophic level organism have been consumed by other higher level organisms, which will end up in the form of a bioaccumulation. And last is the toxicity. I will also explain this in detail. Basically, the chemicals that are associated with these microplastics have been creating will be act as endocrine disruptors, and it also have impact on the reproductive systems of the marine life. So this is one of excellent slide, I could say, because there is a combined effect of the microplastic as well as the associated pollutant, which is damaging the marine organisms. So here you can see there are larger heavy metals and then antibiotics and other hydrophobic compounds. So when it gets attached with the microplastics, it will become a contaminated. Once these contaminated microplastics have been consumed by the fish, and then it has lot of effect on the health of the fishes. So there is a possibility that the brain gets affected, the muscle, kidney, swim bladders, ovary, the reproduction gets affected, stomach and intestine blockage can happen, and then there is a possibility that the heart and liver as well as the gills can also gets affected, because gills is the only way that the fishes can breathe, right? So if these microplastics can get clogged in the gills, then there is a possibility that the fish may not able to breathe, and then it will lead to the mortality. So once these fishes are consumed by us, and it's very much sure that the microplastics will also go into our health and then create deleterious effects on our health. So there are major mitigating measures in order to avoid the microplastics that are entering into the oceans. So first is about recycling or the waste management, because we have to increase or improve the system that has been doing the recycling or the waste collection, so that we can reduce the impact of plastics that are entering into the ocean. And second is the product design and the substitution, where you produce an alternative material or redesign a product so that it can eliminate the usage of microplastic, but also act as a sustainable alternative. So, excuse me. So the materials such as bioplastics, especially from seaweeds or other sugarcane bagasse or molasses. I think in Delhi, there is a startup which has been producing bioplastic using sugarcane waste. Okay. So those kind of alternatives can be easily done. Excuse me. And last is the cleanup and removal of microplastics. So we can come up with efficient technologies in order to remove these microplastics from the environment. So lastly, the transdisciplinary approach is very much important. First, we have to recognize and act. We have to create the public awareness about the reduction of microplastics. Second is to give incentive and design policies which can withstand or which can be effective in place in order to reduce the use of microplastics. Third is transform the socioeconomic pathways, because we need a sustainable plastic chemistry. As I was mentioning, we can replace some materials which would not cause any harm to the environment or the organisms. So last is utilizing the emerging technology in order to reduce the waste. So as currently AI is effective in most of the sectors, we can also use that for reducing the plastic waste mitigation. So we can create or develop algorithms that can able to detect the plastic materials, and which can be helpful in order to recycle or in order to reduce the impact. And we can also develop supply chain optimization, especially for the plastic packaging and promoting alternative materials for the industries. We can also develop predictive models. We can develop bioplastics and then create public education, and then keeping the general public in relation with reducing the microplastic reduction. So urgent action is needed in order to reduce the use of microplastics. Individual responsibility and self-discipline is more important in reducing the microplastics. Even if you are going to supermarket, if you are going to hotel restaurants to buy some food, carry your own vessels and carry your own bag. Okay. And then collective solutions are much needed in order to collaborate with the industries or academic institutions, with researchers or with other industries to come out with a comprehensive solutions. So last but not least, what we have been doing at Satyabama is we have been working in microplastic for the past few months, where we have been working in both marine as well as in fisheries sector, especially in assessing the impact of marine microplastic pollution in the coastal fisheries of Tamil Nadu as well as in the freshwater lakes of Chennai. So what we do is we collect samples, especially fishes, because fishes are the most targeted organisms that are consumed by the fish, not only the fishermen, but also the coastal or the communities that are depending on them. So you weigh the tissues and then keep it for the digestion. And then you observe under the microscope where you can easily observe the fragment. So what we are doing differently or uniquely is we are targeting only the edible tissues. So we are not targeting the non-edible tissues. So what has happened is almost 14% of the edible tissues are containing microplastics. So whoever is eating fish, please be aware that the microplastics are getting absorbed into the tissues and the muscles of fishes and other organisms. So the relative abundance of microplastics is also evident, and there is a polypropylene, polystyrene, and polyurethane and other alkyd resins have been available in the fish resins. So what we do is, after observing the microplastics under the microscope, we take them to the Raman spectroscopy, which is highly sophisticated instrument. So based on the peak structures, you can identify the compounds that has been available. As I was mentioning, that some of the heavy metals and toxic chemicals are also associated with these microplastics. Okay, so these compounds have been easily picked up by these Raman spectroscopy, which is helpful for us to identify the microplastics that are available in the fishes or other environments. So acknowledgement to our Vice Chancellor, management of Satyabama, and the PhD student who is especially working with microplastics, and then to Spear India for giving this wonderful opportunity. And thank you all. So
Thank
ready to
you.
take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Prakash, for highlighting from types of microplastics and also the pathways of microplastics into marine environment, and also different strategies to manage plastic waste management at different stages and how we can approach it. This was very helpful. You also mentioned collective action, and towards this, we are faced for our next speaker, Ms. Pooja Mitra from Terra Conscious, who also works on collaboration for streamlined efforts, and monitoring and evaluation, of course, is essential for any activity to sustain while there are numerous conservation initiatives. So Pooja, I would like to invite you to share about the significance of collaborative efforts and partnerships for effective marine conservation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wish you a very happy World Environment Day, and thank you to Sphere India for giving me this opportunity to present my work. I'm also going to just share my screen very quickly. Is that visible to everybody?
Yes.
All right. So basically, we are set up as a social impact and conservation enterprise. And it was great to hear the first two presentations where we went through the impacts of plastic pollution, the types of marine and coastal ecosystems that we have in India. So I won't dwell on that so much because I think we've got quite an understanding. But my work really focuses a little differently on how do we drive demand for these things. For example, why do we have a large fisheries and a growing fisheries industry or tourism industry or coastal development or trade, transport, all the different industries that depend on ocean ecosystems? Because somebody is driving the demand for it. Someone wants either the Amazon package quickly, or we want apples from New Zealand, or we want to eat prawns all year round, or you want plate-sized pomfret, or you want to do water sports, or you want to go on a boat tour, or you want to go diving. And basically, a lot of us who are not from coastal communities or who are not based on the coast are still influencing how these ecosystems are used and managed. And therefore, we have as much of a role to play as much as the community that is directly dependent on providing the service. So I do believe that outreach has to be as much for urban, especially privileged consumers who travel, who have access, who can do different things, because you are influencing this ecosystem, whether you are aware of it or not. The kind of programs that we do are rooted in collaborative partnerships because we do believe that it needs all kinds of different skills and expertise to be able to develop any kind of intervention on the ground that can be sustained. We use a socio-ecological approach because we believe people and environment are inextricably linked. We are dependent on the environment, we use the environment, we are from nature, we are nature. That's how we think of this relationship. And therefore, if nature is to be sustained, to be productive, then humans have to understand that we're not separate from it, and our survival very much is integrated into how this works. So we done three basic programs. We kind of picked up tourism because we are based out of Goa, and that's one of the largest industries. And I also felt, looking at the landscape of marine work in India, tourism is growing, but it's not necessarily being focused on by a lot of the intervention organizations. And it's a growing problem. It's just like fisheries became rather unmanageable given what it is today. And the same thing is happening with tourism. And with India's blue economy thrust, etc., tourism is one of the areas that we do see a lot of investment going in, a lot of push, states committing a lot of targets for it. And we also see that a lot of small scale fishers who are getting pushed out by industrialized, mechanized trawling and larger fish meal, fish oil production, are not being able to sustain a more traditional, eco-friendly way of fishing. And then tourism becomes either a hybrid livelihood, which they also end up doing, at least in the case of Goa, or they transition completely and then they kind of totally lose the fishing line. So that is something we've been looking at. We also look at working with monitoring of the beach ecosystem, the marine ecosystem, because the more you understand what's happening with that ecosystem, the better your solution, I thinking, can be. The more data you have, the better it is. So we particularly work on marine wildlife rescue and rehabilitation and how can that actually work. Unfortunately, most come dead than injured, so not much rehabilitation happens compared to how much of us just having to bury it. But postmortems are done by a partner organization. And over time, we are getting to understand, at least for Goa, where we run the network, what is wrong with the ecosystem, what is indicative of the health of the ecosystem. And marine wildlife standings are also a source of data for that. And a big part of our work lies in changing or influencing human behavior, which comes under our education and outreach efforts. And these are some of the organizations that we have worked with. So we are set up as a for-profit venture because one of the things I believe is, especially when you work on livelihood, unless you know the solution you're suggesting to someone who is marginalized, who is directly dependent, who doesn't have the kind of access and privilege you might have as somebody doing the intervention, you're not really going to know whether the solution you suggest is going to work over time or not. And we felt that looking at the fact that we were trying to suggest responsible practices, we wanted to be sure that that does indeed generate revenue and someone can actually live off it. And it can actually work at the policy level. So which is why we set ourselves up as a social enterprise. We do funded projects in partnership with nonprofits. Sometimes we are brought on as consultants when we do a strategy or we implement a project. So those are sort of our structure for working. So everyone sort of talked about plastic. I saw turtles on the slides, but I'm going to turn your attention to the marine mammals of India. We have 31 species from the blue whale down to the gangetic dolphin, which is our national aquatic animal. We're quite lucky because we're so diverse with a long coastline, multiple coastal ecosystems, ocean ecosystems, that we have nearshore dwelling species, we have riverine species, we have brackish water species, Irrawaddy dolphin to be specific. And a lot of these nearshore species are residential. So if you can see my screen, this species, the Indo-Pacific humpback dolphin, is found on the east coast of India. The Indian Ocean humpback dolphin is on the west coast of India, all along distributed. So is the Indo-Pacific finless porpoise. You have a lot of sightings of killer whales that live offshore. bottlenose dolphin, and the Arabian Sea humpback whale, which in fact doesn't even migrate. So it is now got the name Arabian Sea humpback. So this is what we have. You have 7 global sea turtle species, 5 of which are reported from India. You have the green sea turtle, olive ridley, which comes to nest in east coast and west coast of India. You have the hawksbill, the leatherback, the loggerhead, also records from the west coast and east coast and the island. We now only have one leatherback sea turtle nesting. In the 80s, they used to nest on the mainland as well. Now they only nest in Nicobar in a specific place called Galapia Bay, but that has recently been denotified as a sanctuary for a transshipment port that is planned for that area. There are lots of people fighting to save that and not destroy the only nesting site that we have. But these are the things that these issues are all interconnected. And when we talk about ocean conservation, just how oceans link the 7 continents of the world and is 3/4 of the planet. Similarly, conservation actions have to be interconnected. We have to look at how all of this intersects in the space and how can our solutions be complementary. Some of the human-driven impacts have been talked about. Plastic, we are seeing real-time effects of that. This is a newborn calf of a finless porpoise that washed up dead on Goa's coast. I'll talk a little bit about the work we do with lifeguards as part of our collaborative work, but here he is measuring it to get the size so we can know the age. That's a humpback dolphin that came up there. I'm sorry the pictures are distressing, but this is the reality. There's no point pretending this isn't happening. That's a turtle which has got stuck in a net. Again, you've talked about ghost nets and fishing net impacts. This one was thankfully alive and was able to be rescued. So it helped having monitoring because we could get to know quickly that it's come and we can respond to it. Was a small coast, it's just 100 kilometers, so we have statewide monitoring. This is from Panjim, the main city. When the tide is low, you see all the garbage going out from the city. It's barely managed. And again, as you discussed, plastic is a huge issue for marine life. So is the fishing industry, the industrialized fishing industry. And yes, while people think fishing happens only to catch fish and eat fish, it also goes into multiple other industries. Today, you have something called as reduction fisheries, where they're removing non-target species, which means we don't eat it, but we do use it. So this is small biomass, small bycatch, which goes into the pharmaceutical industry. So all your omega-3 supplements, a lot of them are with fish oil, pet food, poultry feed, aquaculture feed. So when you have farm prawns, farm salmons, in fact, a lot of reduction fisheries drive local biomass from India to the North America, where they feed. In fact, Chile is one of the largest fish meal processing countries, and from there it's exported to North American salmon farms, which we then import back, and then you eat it as a highly priced sushi in Bombay or Delhi or Bangalore, wherever. But essentially, that's removing nutrition from coastal communities, and we are definitely seeing rise in malnutrition. We are constantly on those global surveys where India is ranked low on nutritional health. And these kind of industries and demand drive it, because ultimately, who's buying all this? Who's buying salmon? Who's eating sushi? Who's buying a packaged pet food? Who's buying a supplement? It's someone who's privileged, who has the money to do that. So definitely thinking about consumer behavior and how all this is driven. That's a whole bunch of sharks on your screen. Rapidly declining, as almost 80% collapse of the shark species in India on our coasts. Coral bleaching is another issue which happens with global climate change as we, increase our carbon output. The ocean is actually the largest carbon sink. The phytoplankton absorb a lot. But when you start producing more than it can even absorb, it starts to heat up, become acidic. That affects your coral reefs. Corals cover just 1.5% of the Earth's surface, but support 25% of all marine life. So it's extremely critical for directly dependent industries and for ocean health in general. Because vast tracts of the ocean are empty. They don't have food. They don't have a place to hide. So fish are moving, large mammals are moving. Corals provide shelter also. They are homes for fish. They're homes for different kinds of marine life. And we're still discovering how they work and how they respond. Because while we know much more about space than we know about oceans, because we don't really fund ocean research, especially in India, it's very under-researched, very underfunded. We've had a very terrestrially dominated discourse for so many decades. Everybody knows why the tiger needs to be saved, but it's very hard to name even 5 flagship marine species of India that need to be saved. And tigers have benefited from continuous attention, spotlighting from media. I don't know if you all remember, but 20 years ago, you had NDTV, SL, big actors all pushing it, government pushing it. Wildlife Protection Act actually came out of that need. And today you can see the result. The population is doing well, you have protected areas, there's tourism around it, all of that. But oceans, unfortunately, have not received that same kind of attention. And therefore, today, when this is now declared the year of the ocean decade, it's becoming a global issue. India is pushing blue economy, wants to talk about all these things. But we are so far apart from what we know and understand about terrestrial ecosystems, communities, and where we are on ocean and coast, that I worry that we're not really going to get to dealing with this unless we start really accelerating the attention we are putting on oceans and coasts. And to that effort, I think this webinar is great. More information gets out. So our work focuses specifically on the Indian Ocean humpback dolphin, which is residential to the west coast of India. They cannot swim more than 50 feet depth of water. So their entire lifespan of 30, 35 years is spent on very near shore waters. And they're adaptive hunters. They've learned to hunt in river mouths. They've learned to take fish from fishing nets, from trawl nets. So leading fishermen to think of them as a menace. But with the rising trend of tourism, a lot of people come to see dolphins in Goa. It's a 15-year-old industry. They also see them in other rivers of India. Sundarbans has a program. These are different species. So this is dolphin tourism focused on different species. So Gangetic dolphin, Irrawaddy dolphin in Orissa. And while this is happening and money is being spent on it, it's again not being looked at or regulated the way we regulate tiger tourism or wildlife tourism in the national parks or in the land ecosystems. Ocean still seems to be kind of a free for all, and tourism is a state subject. We don't have guidelines. In fact, in Goa, this is called as water sports. So it's not even comes under, and water is a very complicated governance. I think the HCL speaker had touched upon that. And it's true because, the animal is under forest department, the water is under a different department, the tourism license is under tourism department, the regulation is under coastal police or marine police. So really getting all these actors together, creating those collaborative networks, building that relationship, understanding how they can support each other in governance and enforcement is very critical. So I'm going to quickly show you this video. Oh, sorry. Is someone saying something?
No, please go on.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. One second. So this is a video that we took during a survey we did in 2016 to look at how does the present form of tourism impact humpback dolphin in a site offshore from Goa. This is very close. It's literally half a kilometer out from the beach. And this is kind of like how dolphin tourism is happening around India at the moment in any case. So, right.
Pooja, I think your highlighter is.
Oh, is that it? How do I do that? Okay, I don't know how to turn that off. Sorry, I'm very technologically challenged. Okay, so those two little quick clips are just to give you an indication of the way the trip is done at the moment. You could see there was a lot of circling. They are very close to the dolphins, forcing dolphins to. So dolphins are air breathers. They have lungs. They evolved from a land mammal, so they can't breathe underwater. Every species can hold its breath for a different amount of time. Humpback dolphins can grow to a length of 11 feet. They can weigh 280 kilos. So they can hold their breath for about 8 to 10 minutes at a time as an adult. If you're a baby calf, you can't do it more than a minute or so. Now, when boats crowd them so close, they do not have the space to come up and breathe, which can cause drowning deaths, which can cause stress, split mother and calf, split them from the family group. They're extremely social, so they hunt in groups. And at the same time, they also, need to be feeding. They feed for many hours in the day. But in India, we don't regulate dolphin tourism. So it's not like dolphin watching happens twice a day or something. It runs from morning 8 o'clock to evening 5 o'clock. So the animal is spending the entire day trying to avoid these boats. And this is just from one site where almost 180 boats operate. We don't have a cap in India right now. In fact, we're inviting more investment. And the second clip you saw was of a 40-seater boat. So at a time, in a single day, a dolphin could be surrounded by a 40-seater boat, a 10-seater boat, a 20-seater boat, a fast speed boat like a jet boat or a small scale 9.9 horsepower engine boat, a cruise ship, a barge, a fishing trawler, a super seiner. And it has to deal with all this different engine noise, different speeds, proximity, all of that causes a lot of stress. WWF has also created guidelines which are yet to be adopted by the government formally. But what we did was, since we were I was part of this project of these guidelines being developed. We then looked at what are global best practices. And globally, dolphin watching is $1 billion industry. But in India, we price it at 300 rupees or 500 rupees, which means that we have no value ascribed to this. And humpback dolphins are endangered. They're less than 10,000 globally. Goa has maybe 400, 500 of them. And this is the activity cost that we charge a customer. Does that cover the cost of rising cost of fuel for the boatman, labor cost, license cost, jetty fees, running the trip, marketing the trip? No, of course it doesn't. So then it increases a volume-based activity where you need to do a lot of trips to be able to generate money. And this again is being driven by a consumer who thinks, oh, Goa is just a place to party and drink and let's bargain, let's get it cheap. I want, water sports for 100 rupees. I want this for 200 rupees. But then we'll think nothing of spending 500 in a PVR cinema, or we'll think nothing of spending 600, 700 rupees on a coffee or a sandwich in a cafe. But when it comes to supporting a coastal community member, or we comes to supporting marine wildlife, we are very price conscious and we want it the cheapest possible. And cheap doesn't necessarily equate to responsible, because if somebody doesn't earn a decent, dignified livelihood from this, how can you expect them to go out there and now start to do it, slow down, not chase, not give a sighting? And then the tourist perception also matters, because a lot of people see dolphins on TV, they see them, how it's being marketed, always jumping out. No one is like that. No animal is jumping all day long. They jump when they have to. That's called breaching. They do it for very specific reasons, mostly to communicate, to socialize, to remove sea lice from the body. And they certainly don't want to be touched. They certainly don't want you swimming next to them. They don't want to be fed. But these are all the things you see people doing to make an extra buck. Or they serve alcohol, or they let you dance. All of that takes away from really making it a learning experience. So we decided to intervene. These are some of the activities: training boat partners, putting up signage, trying to create a dolphin-friendly experience. This is a pilot group I work with, and it will be nice for you to hear from them. Can you hear his voice?
No, maybe you can share the presentation just in lieu of time. It would be good if we can wind up in the next couple of minutes also.
Okay. So anyway, so Chandu, who's my pilot boat partner, he's just talking about how he has found this changing, being able to do the trip in a more responsible manner. And what we did is we became his market partner. We started talking about the trip, why it's important to learn about it. We extended it to 2 hours so that you can slow down, switch off next to the animal, don't chase it, don't surround it. And we increased the price point to 2,000 rupees so that they can earn much more for an experience than they were previously. And when you are earning better from one trip out, then you don't want to go the whole day. So that reduces your carbon footprint as well. And sightings were better, tourists were learning more. So overall, the model is working. We're working towards seeing how we can get this adopted across the state and elsewhere. These are another few examples. This is a neonatal fold. It's very young humpback dolphin calf. They were telling you about ghost nets. This is a live example. So this is the second project that we're doing, also collaborative with lifeguards. Goa is one of the few states which has lifeguards all across the state line, deployed 24/7, 365 days a year. So we train them to also be first responders. They support the Goa Forest Department. All these are Schedule 1 turtle, dolphins, all protected like the tiger. But as we know, on paper, it's a protection. On ground, it's not enforced that much in the way it should be in all these industries. So we have a group, they report it, then the department takes action. We've done trainings across. So we almost have 450 people watching the post now every day. We've also mapped out the standings. You can see that on your screen. You can see the hotspots all across Goa. And this is just data from one state. If you visit the Marine Mammals India website, you will see data from every state. And these numbers are very high. And these are low breeding, large animals, need large habitats. And they are very important for the ocean ecosystem. They're apex predators like tigers, like lions, elephants. And they play the same ecosystem building role. So they disappear from the ecosystem. You will have what is called a trophic cascade when the entire ecosystem collapses, affecting fisheries, affecting tourism, affecting ocean health, climate, all of that. So everything has a role. These are some of the numbers: 682 cases by 22. This has already gone up to 1,000. 150 cases come just in Goa every week. So these are the network building activities that we have done, built the collaborative network. So it's forests, lifeguards, veterinarians, species experts, community members, to make sure that we are managing the ecosystem together in a collaborative manner. The same thing happens with the boat partners. And we also try to involve a lot of youth and students because that, of course, is where the future lies. And the more empowered one is with knowledge, hopefully the more conscious your choice making is. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, we're happy.
Thank you, Pooja, for highlighting the diversity of marine wildlife in India and also how human behavior and climate change is also impacting their diversity, and how behavioral change, especially targeting urban consumers, can impact change in terms of marine conservation, and also collaborative efforts in terms of advocacy, partnerships, and initiatives can help bring attention more to marine conservation, marine wildlife conservation as well. We have with us Mr. Arjali Dasu from District Fishermen's Youth Welfare Association, who has been working with local fishing communities in coastal Andhra Pradesh for marine protected area management. Arjali Garu, can you share with us more about community engagement and participation in coastal conservation initiatives?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, madam. So myself, Arjali Dasu, working in District Fishermen Youth Welfare Association in Visakhapatnam. So particularly Andhra Pradesh 974 kilometer coastline. Actually, we are working on fish conservation or coastal conservation for last 20 years in Visakhapatnam and surrounding districts also. Actually, I can saying only one case study. Recently, last 10 years, plastic garbage very high going to sea. Like everybody, not only people, government and private people are saying like sea is like garbage. Every waste goes to the sea. Second one, previously 20 years back, our fishing community going to sea, they are catching 100% fish. Now they are catching, suppose 100 kg fish, definitely they are getting 10 to 15 kg plastic and garbage. So this is a big problem. Second one, marine fishing grounds also destroying. Previously, last 20, 200, 300 years, only one fishing ground is there. our all fishers going to that fishing ground. They are catching fish. Now fishing grounds is also destroyed because of heavy marine pollution as well as plastic and ghost nets and illegal process entire coastal area. Second one, marine, we are awareness on Marine Mammals Protection Act activities, and recently actually our fishers mostly they are using diamond safe mesh size net. So that is a big problem for conservation. Recently we are promoting scare mesh. Even Government of India Marine Products Export Development Authority, Government of India also promoting scare mesh. We are giving some subsidy to fishers, encourage this scare mesh, protect the conservation. This one process is going on now in Visakhapatnam and some parts of Andhra Pradesh. Second one, the conservation is mainly bottom trawling nets. In Visakhapatnam and Andhra Pradesh, 3,000 above mechanized boats were fishing in our Andhra coast. Particularly, the most of mechanized boats are using bottom trawling nets or mid-water trawling nets. In this meanwhile, juvenile fish and so many plastic, all those catching these bottom trawling nets. We are awareness also mechanized boats owners as well as crew members. Second one, actually, we are CRZ. 2019 CRZ mostly affected fishing community and a coastal protected area because 2011 CRZ zone up to 500 meters, there is no activity or there is no construction or temporary or permanent. So 2019, even 50 meters towards land. Any construction. Yeah. Government has given so many. Government is also so many. Yeah. Okay, madam. It's audible.
Yeah, please go on, sir.
Yeah. Second one, recently last 10 years, fishing that zones in the sea. There is no fish and plantations. Even NTPC, National Thermal Power Plants, they are releasing hot water, particular areas. The particular areas, turtles is also dead. Recently, 10 turtles one time is dead. We fishers. Second one, even nets also. Nets also including in the turtles and even mangroves production. Actually, recently 10 years back, a good mangroves, particular pockets in coastal area. So government is priority development activities, some industries construction. In the meanwhile, the removed mangroves also. But recently NAOB, National Alternative Naval Base in Visakhapatnam near Rambilli, at least I think 1,500 acre mangroves removed, particularly that project. So is a big problem. Second one, even fish breeding is also big problem. Suppose without mangroves, fish breeding is very problematic and fish catch is also year to year decreasing. Actually 20-30 years use catching in fish. So now catch is also decreasing. Second one, 20 years back within 10 to 15 kilometers available in a lot of fish. So now beyond 30, 40, 50 kilometers, but you are not getting good catch. Suppose you are getting good catch, suppose you are getting 100 kg, definitely we are getting 20-25 kg plastic and garbage. So we are a big problem. And recently Government of India, Department of Fisheries, already one project is launched, large marine ecosystem. So present you are identified some places in Kakinada, Korangi, for mangroves forest area, and one fishing harbor in Kakinada. So you are identified that places. Present you are working that process also. Second one, EMPADA Marine Products Export Development Authority, their sister concern organization called on Nutfish. Nutfish is also, our organization is also member of in Nutfish. Nutfish is also, they are working on fish conservation, protection in coastal area, and we are promoting our coastal community fishermen, particularly long line fishing. Mostly net using very less. We are promoting long line and hook and line fishing. Suppose hook and fishing line, fishing sustainability is important. Future fishing sustainability, definitely we are working on hook and line and long line fishing. And you are promoting fish aggregating devices installed in seabed. Fish's journey, they are sheltering that place. So there is already grounds is totally destroyed, fishing grounds. So we are promoting fish aggregating devices or artificial reefs. Yeah, our area, 17 places installed fish aggregating devices, but is now is good catch, particularly particular pockets. So present we are working on that, madam. Thank you for giving me opportunity, Sphere India.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for sharing, Arjil Garu, regarding the initiatives you are undertaking with the community on sustainable fishing practices and coastal zone management. And also to all the panelists who have shared strategies for marine conservation, ranging from managing plastic waste, wetland management, including mangrove plantations, and restoration, and also marine biodiversity conservation through advocacy, sustainable tourism and fishing practices, and also through stakeholder engagement and as Pooja also shared, first responders for rescue and rehabilitation of marine wildlife, and also engaging students in these conservation initiatives and different kinds of stakeholders for concerted efforts. If anyone has questions for the panelists, requesting you to please unmute yourself and share the same, or put your questions or comments on the chat box. So we have a question from Abhishek to Pooja on how effective is the functional of the Dugong Conservancy project in Tamil Nadu, as we have lost almost the natural habitats of dugong in the eastern coast of Odisha and West Bengal, and how the large marine mammal strandings like large whale species or whale sharks, particularly in the western coast, are having mass attentions, including the government agencies and NGOs, to ensure their safety, unless the high tides are coming. Pooja, would you like to address this?
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Abhishek. I don't know too much about the Dugong project in Tamil Nadu because I haven't worked in that area. But what I do know from the projects that work there, like the Omkar Foundation, there is the Parkway protected area. They have managed to restore some amount of seagrass habitats which dugongs depend on. But really, again, it's the same issue. There's impact of pollution, there's impact of trawling, there's impact of tourism. And unless governments actually, the departments work together, unless the policies are cohesive, I'm not really sure if you could say anything is really a success project. You might be able to have some interventions which give you some ideas that this works. But we really need much more support for this section of work for us to really say in the long term that the species has been protected. So it remains to be seen how effective it is. The second question you had, how do they get attention? See, stranding across the country right now is a growing issue. The central government has issued some guidelines. There are informal networks of researchers, fishers, local community members. Goa has the most structured one because we actually have a public-private community combination, because Drishti Marine, which is the lifeguard agency, is a private company. Forest Department is a government body. We are a private company. Then community members who own restaurants, shacks, local fishers, people who live around the area, are the community members, and then all of us together kind of work to try and manage that. This is not there in every state. So that is also a challenge where you don't have this kind of first responder support. These networks have to be set up. And something we are trying to advocate for is that as coastal states invest in coastal tourism, they should mandatorily have lifeguards on the coastline who can be trained to respond to marine cases as well and support the forest department, which doesn't traditionally have a presence on the coast, even though marine life has now been under them. And you really have a big challenge in terms of equipment. You have a big challenge in terms of manpower. You have, maybe organizations like Sphere India that look at disaster management also need to think about what happens if we have a large oil spill or we have a cyclone. What's the wildlife component? How can we really build those protocols and structures and interconnectedly respond to what could be the potential fallouts of such natural disasters, which we know are going to only increase with climate impacts. And presently, India is seeing high uptick on strandings all across the coast. But the development narrative is full speed ahead. Let's expand deep sea fishing, deep sea mining. Everything is coming to the table. 22 ports are planned for the coast. So I think it's time people get really informed, really engaged. This is not about NGOs or government. It's about people learning and becoming way more engaged, thinking about your choices right when you travel, when you walk in to buy a product. Because when you change your way of doing something, it puts pressure on the supplier. If you say, I don't want a 5 rupee plastic sachet, or I don't want to go and do a disturbing high-speed water sport, but I rather do something knowledge-based, it starts building confidence in the supply chain to give you that alternate experience. And that puts pressure on the government to start really enforcing policies. We do have good policies, we just don't have good capacity to enforce. And that's something that needs collective action. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but I've taken our attempt.
Hello, Pooja. Hello, Pooja. You
Yes.
have answered a lot to the question which I've asked. But what I intend to know is the particular name of the organization who is working for the plantation of the seaweeds for the dugong feeding areas.
Okay, that is
Could you name that?
Omkar Foundation, OMCAR, which is working in Park Bay. You should contact them. They seem to have had some success rate.
Okay, Omkar Foundation, isn't it?
Yes.
And one thing you raised in your point while you were giving your presentation was that the government agencies like the marine regulatory bodies or the regulation, the law enforcement, the tourism industry, they are having their respective stakes in the ocean and the water bodies concerned to our oceanic area, waters in the Indian territories. And it's not under the functioning of the direct forest division or the forest department. So the ocean conditions, they are not having a full-fledged setup to work for them in the favor of the
Yes.
protection of the diversity and
Yes. We don't have a marine ministry. So fisheries is under agriculture department, marine
yes,
wildlife is under Ministry of Environment and Forest. And actually now offshore marine protected areas are going to be partially administered by forest, partially is even under Ministry of Earth Sciences. So this kind
okay,
of fragmented governance becomes hugely challenging, especially if you're trying to do a project on the ground, which has all these aspects. There's livelihood, there's wildlife ecosystem, all of that. And state governments also need capacity built. They need this kind of interdepartmental cooperation where
exactly,
proper strategy is made that when we are looking at an ecosystem with so many aspects and it's very fluid, you cannot fence the ocean and you cannot sort of replant it or something like you can do to a degraded landmass. And therefore and again, boundaries are very difficult to enforce in the water.
exactly,
And
exactly,
again, there's global impacts as we saw from that bottle traveling from Singapore, etc.
exactly, exactly,
So because of all these challenges, I feel the next couple of years, a lot of policy advocacy has to be in getting these departments to talk to each other, to sit together,
exactly,
to look at it in a cohesive manner. Otherwise, we keep creating these compartmentalized solutions, which end up sometimes canceling each other out. So they don't really
exactly.
work.
And one important thing is that during the cases of the Antarctic expeditions, we find that India is a large stakeholder in that case. And also the global community is going for Antarctic expeditions, which is creating a havoc in the area of the marine biodiversity of the particular fragile ecosystems over there, considering the cases of the environment exploitation. So this is a real matter of concern.
Yeah.
So as you
Also,
told, like
we
the
do
government,
more outbound expedition than we study our own coastline.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
that is
Apart from
another
that,
challenge, that we don't
and
have data.
exactly, and the geopolitical strategies of making ports, as you said, right, that the ports are a matter of concern in these cases where the extraction of the oil resources or many other things from the sea grounds, they are being taken out. So that's a major matter of concern. So
It's
if the
also
thing is being,
about prioritizing development. So when a state like
exactly,
Goa, which is only 100 kilometers and has tourism and fisheries, suddenly decides that we want to handle, 50 million tons of coal, and we know Adani and Jindal are building
sure enough,
expansion ports there. States need to prioritize. If I have such a small geography and I already have an industry dependent on natural diversity, then if I put something like a coal port, which is just handling coal, it's not even that it's being extracted here. It's just going to be unloaded and moved. Then should we have that kind of industry in the same zone when it can actually end up destroying the tourism and fisheries part because of the
sure
pollution
enough,
and the dredging that has to be done? So I think one of the challenges in the coming years, especially for people like civil society, which can actually work together, scientists, advocacy, capacity building, we need to be prioritizing for the country. Every state cannot have 100 ports, 100 oil extraction, 100 fisheries, because there's this competitiveness. If that state has, I also want. But we actually have to look at our ecosystem in an interconnected manner. The entire coastline is one interconnected ecosystem. So it's not that you can, like, for example, India has a very funny thing where we have catch rate per state. So Maharashtra can say, I'll catch this much percentage of a target fish. Goa will say, I'll catch this much. Now research is showing us that the same population of fish is moving between both the states. And both have
exactly,
put the catch capacity. You see what I mean? So they're not
yeah,
even talking to each other and deciding like a holistic, how much can you take from this population. So until we have better communication, better cooperation between states, prioritization, I think these challenges, become something we repeat every year. And we know Environment Day, Oceans Day, these are the special days when everybody wants to talk about this. But essentially, we need this very consistent, collaborative attention on this. And we need to look at it from all angles. Otherwise,
sure
we're
enough.
not really creating a strategy that's working, at least from what I know.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks for the
Pooja, for
detail. Thanks.
taking that question, and thanks, Abhishek, for that question. So I think Pooja also touched upon convergence aspects with different government departments and policies. So I hope that answers your question as well,
Sure
Parinima.
enough. Sure, madam.
And thank you so much. So if we have any further questions, please feel free to email us and we can share it with the panelists also, since we are already running late on time. And thank you to all the panelists for still staying on call. If you have any questions, as I mentioned, please share it with us and we'll put you in touch with the panelists. And all the presentations shared by the panelists will also be shared with the participants on email. And thank you once again to all the panelists who have given us such critical insights on how all the marine ecosystems and coastlines are interconnected, and how there needs to be concerted efforts in terms of policies, approaches, and also initiatives, and also different stakeholders to get engaged in this conversation, and also the initiatives that we undertake. Thank you so much, and I hand it over to Hannah for the closing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. It was a wonderful session. Am I audible? Sorry.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yeah, it was a wonderful session, so much of information. I would like to thank all our speakers who took so much of time to explain the concepts and the challenges and the strategies and recommendations with us. I especially would like to thank all our participants also for like a very good engaging towards the end of the session. Also, a big thank you to Michelle for facilitating the session. So, as you all know, we have recorded the session. So we'll be sending you all the feedback forms and also the recording and the PPTs used in the session. Once again, thank you all for staying with us, and it was a wonderful session. Thank you all. See you for the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.